Welcome back. This is the second lesson recording for IM1 for January 5th, 2021. So now we're going to move on to cube roots. Okay, and you are taking notes here. Now, this square root symbol that you saw earlier, but this time you have a little number on the top. This is different to a bigger number that is in front. If I had 3 right here, that's going to be very different to this little number that's on top of or to the top left of the square root symbol. When you see that, this means it's a cube root. Okay, so what is a cube root of 125? Well, in this case, we're looking for a number when cubed becomes 125. So what do we mean by that? What is the number multiplied to itself 3 times? That's what it means. Okay, this will be a question mark raised to the power of 3 is equal to 125 because it's being repeated 3 times, right? It's like question mark to the raised to the power of 3 is 125. So what is this question mark number that multiplies to itself 3 times is going to give me 125? Well, again, 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 5 lots of 25. That's going to be 125. So 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So we know that the question mark number has to have been 5. So we can say cube root. Okay, that's how you read it, is cube root of 125 equals 5. That's how you would read it. Okay, so then how do we find the cube roots? What is the cube root of 125? We look for a number that multiplies to itself 3 times to give 125. Okay, or I'm looking for a number that's a question mark when cubed gives 125. Cube just means, think of a cube. And you will, as we go through the decimals, hopefully you will understand why it is called cubed. When cubed gives 125. Okay, and to do that, to have a list, a table of perfect cubes. Remember, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, and this is the kind of list that you're going to have to create for part of your homework. And 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Okay, 4 times 4 times 4 is 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64, and so on. Okay, 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So these are the list of perfect cubes up to 1,000. Okay, and it just goes up to 10. So you should definitely know the perfect squares. It will be helpful if you know perfect cubes, maybe up to maybe 125. Okay. All right, so then I want you to tell me in private chat here. Okay, what is the cube root of 27? The cube root of 27 is, that means are we looking for 27 on this list or on the right hand list? 27 is the perfect cube here. So what is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times that gives 27 as the final product? It is 3. What about this? What is this notation? This is telling me the cube root of 1000 is, find your 1000. What was the number that was multiplied to itself 3 times? It had to have been 10. Okay, so what is the cube root of 216? 216, find your 216. The number had to have been 6 multiplied to itself 3 times. So the answer is 6. And then lastly, the cube of 8. The cube of 8. Is that saying are we looking for the cube root of 8? Or are we looking for cube of 8? Okay, this is not saying cube root. This is saying cube of 8. So that means it's not this. The answer is not 2, but it's 8 times 8 times 8, which is 512. Great. So now you're going to go on to the Desmos exercise, card number 6 to 10. I'm going to give you a hint. Use the information from the last digit. Remember, just like what we did for the square root, use these numbers here of the perfect cubes, the last digits, and that's going to give you a clue as to which number you should try cubing to find that perfect cube number. So please pause the video and try to do the Desmos exercise for card number 6 to 10 yourself. I am going to go through it also. Okay, here is my purple, mid purple. She's a perfect cube that has whole number side length. Okay, and that is the reason that it's called cube root, or when you are raising to the power of 3, we say cubed. Okay, because we're actually finding the volume of a cube at this time. Before it was area of a square, but when you have a volume, so then you're talking about side length times side length multiplied by its height. Okay, and that's how we find the volume. And this is my perfect cube, purple. And again, you can drag the green dot to make this cube, purple cube, bigger or smaller. Okay, if the side length is 4, then the volume is going to be 64. How do you think we got 64? It was 4 multiplied by 4, which is 16, and then multiplied to the height, which is another 4. So it's going to be 4 times 4 times 4, and you get the volume to be 64. If we make the volume bigger, say like 5, the volume is going to be 125. How do we get 125? The area of this square is 5 times 5, but then there is how many layers of that? There are 5 layers of that. So you need to multiply that by 5 more. Okay, so it's going to be 5 times 5 times 5. And so that's going to be 125. And so that's going to be the pattern all throughout. Okay, and that's the volume. And so what did you notice about purple side length and her total volume? The side length, when multiplies to itself 3 times, is going to get you the volume. All right, purple is a type of cube that always has whole number side length. Okay, so that's why we call perfect instead of perfect squares, perfect cubes. Okay, purple's volume is a perfect cube. What is the whole number? What is the whole number side length of the purple when she has a volume of 1,000 square units? What do you think? What do you think is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times? The number times number times number is 1,000. That number has to be 10 because 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. Okay, so that's what we get. Now this is the cube root symbol. It's a square root symbol. It looks like just like the square root symbol, but this time there's a little small number 3. Okay, with the square root, there was no number there. If there is no number, the default is square root. It's like the default is number 2 right there. Okay, so what is the cube root of 8? The cube root of purple's volume is the side length of the cube. So cube root of 8 is, we're looking for if the volume is 8, what had to have been the side length? It had to have been 2. If the volume is 125, to find the cube root, what do you think was the side length? It had to have been 5, right? Now, what is the cube root of 27? What do you think was the side length if the volume was 27? I know that 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so cube root of 27 is just 3, and that's what you should have as your answer. All right, so now this time you are again moving the 6 cube roots by dragging the dots, and place the 6 cube roots by dragging them, and a star will appear when all six this is a typo, it's a cube roots are placed correctly. Okay, so cube roots, what is a cube root of 64? What is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times? That number times number times number is 64. That number has to be 4, right? So I'm going to move that to 4 right there. The next number is 512. Okay, so that's a big number. Okay, so now you need to be thinking, okay, I know that 10 times 10 times 10 is going to be 1,000. So it's going to be a smaller number than 10. Okay. And I know that 5 times 5 times 5 is 25. And times by another 5 is going to be 125. I know that it's going to be bigger than 5. So it's somewhere between 5 and 10. So I need to keep thinking, okay, what is a perfect cube that would multiply to self to get 2 as your final answer? Okay, and that is 512 here. 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. So this is going to be cube root of 512 is 8. What about 216? 216 cube root, what is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times? 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So we could try 6 times 6 times 6, and that is indeed 216. So I'm going to move that to 6. What is the cube root of 1? What is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times to get you 1? It has to be 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So cube root of 1 is just 1. It's the same number. What about cube root of 729? Well, I know that, okay, I know that 9 times 9 is 81, and 81 times 9, so you just look at the last digit. The last digit is 1, and I have 9 here. So my guess is 9, but I better check that by multiplying it out using the calculator. 9 times 9 times 9 is indeed 729. So I'm going to move that to 9 there. And then my last number is cube root of 8. What is the number that multiplies to itself 3 times to get 8? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So I'm going to move it there. And there is my star. Next up, we're going to be talking about non-whole number square roots, because not all square roots result in a whole number. Okay, so for example, square root of 40. Okay, I am going to continue with this on the next lesson recording. So stay tuned.